Toxic masculinity. Everyone's favourite subject, feminists and non-feminists alike. Feminists to try and prove it, or to use it to shit on men, and a favourite for the right wing to shit on the left wing for talking about it so much. So what is toxic masculinity and why is it important? I think that's the big topic. This is going to be a rambling video again. I kind of wanted to do a more professional video, but I literally don't have any editing software. So, there's that. But I think toxic masculinity is a very interesting conversation because I think it all depends on whether or not you value your being male, being masculine, and your typical role in society. And let me take something like this. For example, I don't really give a shit about the fact that I'm a man. It doesn't matter to me. I do what I want. I mean, even, if I go to a gig or something, dress myself up in makeup, make myself look all gothic, There's a big thing, actually, with the metal movement, and the punk movement in general is it is quite androgynous. A lot of the men in it quite androgynous, already fluffing up. And so I have quite a different perspective to some people on the right wing who go, no, I want to be the head of the family. My role as a man is to have a family and provide for that family and do everything I can for that family, And that person will have a very different worldview to me, If that person's grown up in let's say, a nuclear Catholic family where they're very traditional, and that will be something that they want to do, then that's how they'll view masculinity, and therefore, when I talk about masculinity and the idea of toxic masculinity, then I'll go, well, what I do isn't toxic. There's nothing bad about what I'm doing. And I do agree that there's nothing inherently bad with what they're doing. I think that's a mistake the left wing continues to make, is to assume that all men who decide to live in traditionally male ways are somehow suffering for that reason. But then I've grown up in a very different situation to that. I did grow up. I grew up with one parent who was Catholic and one parent who was, I would say, generally agnostic. But I was brought up Catholic. Read the Bible, realised that it said I should be stoned to death, and to be honest, I atheized pretty quickly. As a bisexual, and it's not like it was because I refused, to follow the Bible because I didn't want to. But the important point is, I grew up with both my parents split apart. I grew up with a single mother who had all kinds of medical problems, who could not fulfill the typical female role she was trying to fill as a caregiver. And I've also got a father who struggles with his masculinity and sometimes does let that out in a toxic way. And everyone sees this, I'm so fucked. But it's the truth. I've seen how expectations of these gender norms can cause damage when people try to live up to them when they don't. So I might later in my life, for example, be interested in having a family and having kids, But because of the way that I've been brought up by people who are living with the expectation of gender roles and failing to fill those roles and still trying, I would say, even though because I have a different experience, I no longer value that role in the family, because I've realised that the role in the family is one you have to be able to fill. And I'm mentally ill, I might end up in a gay relationship when I'm older. I have no interest in any typically male things, Uh, used to be a bit of a nerd, but now I just play Hearthstone every now and then. It's not a major part of my life, right? Sort of my gender. So I think that's the big divide we've got between the left and the right wing when it comes to gender. Is the left are going, you should not be putting these expectations onto people, and then the right wing going, but I really like my role as a man or as a woman in the family. And I think both sides are actually right in this. If you want to celebrate your masculinity or your femininity, and you like the idea of being a housewife, you like the idea of being the head of the family, as long as you're not, abusing the people around you or damaging the people around you, then that's fine. What I think is wrong is the expectation of gender roles, The expectation that I should be playing sports, for example. The expectation that I should dress a certain way, act a certain way. I should be in a certain social dynamic. It is absolutely fine for people, it's more than fine, It's good for people to live those roles if that's how they feel. If they feel like that's a part of who they are and that they're a part of that culture. Now, whether or not that culture is a social construct doesn't really matter to me. If that's what they enjoy, that's fine. But I think the problem is there are people who aren't in those gender norms who then feel like they're not, a part of the given society. When you hear about, stories about someone's entire life, there's always he got married to his wife. Well, at some point in time, I could choose to have a gay partner. It's pretty and it does get quite and there's easily a path in my life where I do not follow that line. But the expectation and culture that I do simply makes it emotionally taxing and difficult for me to actually be able to live like that. To live comfortably. And I think that's why I do believe toxic masculinity is a thing. But I think it's often confused with gender roles being enforced, because the masculinity becomes toxic to the people who take part in it when they're not comfortable with their masculinity, and then they try to counterbalance their lack of masculinity, and they overcompensate, and that causes damage to the people around them. Men are naturally more aggressive. I've seen girls do it too, Girls with really bad social anxiety because they're trying to be an Instagram girl with all of their pretty photos. And the only way they feel that they can fulfill their role in society is to get as many likes and as many hits on Instagram as possible. Then they feel like everyone's judging them 24/7 because that's how they feel the society treats them. It's a very general, and I think it's not as complicated as the left wing and the right wing makes out. You can live the roles that you want to live in your life, and if that is typical of the masculine or feminine culture at the time, that's fucking fine. But you shouldn't be pushing people towards it, and you should let people find themselves. I found myself in my writing. I write quite a lot. And strangely enough, all of my characters are psychotic women, which, don't know what that says about me. But yeah, I think this idea of toxic masculinity and all of that, everyone's making too big of a deal about it, and it really should be about personal liberty to express yourself, and not to be pushed to be somebody you're not, and not have to deal with that pain and that anxiety that follows. We should be living in a society that allows people to find their place. And I do think that gender dynamics and social dynamics are really important. This idea that we had in primary school of sit boy girl, because that way you're not talking because the boys aren't friends with the girls. So it enforces this idea that we shouldn't be friends with the girls. Well, I've been friends with mostly girls through my life. During college, maybe I lost my hang out with mainly guys, but that was one of the worst periods in my life where I wasn't being myself. Now I've got like three friends, like three good friends, and two of them are girls, and one of them is, just a chill guy. So I don't think, and I think the social dynamic, I think, is what's particularly damaging. Is how you should interact with the people around you. This idea that guys need to be at the top of this social hierarchy, and this idea that guys need to be getting into relationships with girls. When I not long ago, I couldn't get into a relationship. I just couldn't, and and then I realized that actually it was because deep down I knew that I wasn't ready for a relationship. But the culture created this idea that I should have a proper relationship. And I had a 3 month relationship. But I mean, it's this idea that I don't think so much it's that the masculinity itself is toxic. I think it's the expectations of our society that's toxic. It's creating false ideas, it's causing people to be in major conflict with themselves and causing them to live unhappy lives. And it does have a massive impact on the LGBT community. There's no surprise that feminism and the LGBT community are so close knit because the expectations put on me, for example, to sort of be a certain way. For example, trans people, they can't find, a lot of them feel like they're not able to express themselves because they need to fit into this dynamic. And I think we should live in a society that's more based on finding yourself, finding your style, finding a way to live. So yes, the feminists are wrong and the right wing is wrong on this issue. It should be about your personal liberty to express yourself, and you should allow your children to express themselves also. And you should allow the people around you to live how they live as long as they're not hurting anyone else. And being gay hurts nobody. If the world ends, that's probably a fucking good thing. Thanks for watching. It's a short video. Subscribe, like, comment. And there we go.